Hi, this is Q Live and Dayak from Delhi. I hope you all are doing good and taking care of yourself. And thank you for keeping up with the stream. There's more interesting stuff coming up. If you like this podcast, you can share it with someone you know can learn from this. And if there's anything you'd like me to improve and make this a better space, please shoot me a mail which is mentioned in the podcast description. For today's episode, we have Vidur Madhav, who's a UX designer at Virgin Pulse based in the United States. We'll be talking about his journey of studying and working around the globe, his experiences at places like University for the Creative Arts and Rhode Island School of Design, to assisting aspiring designers trying to get into the field. Welcome to the show, Vidur. What's up?
Hi,
How's it
Deepak. How are
going?
you? Good, yeah, good. Early morning here, late night there, I guess.
Yeah, not late night. Yeah,
Not
but
late
it's
night.
7 Eve. Yeah, it's 6 p.m. here. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. Been a couple
Yeah,
of years actually.
the last time we met was in 2017 in Paris,
Yeah,
right?
we met in Paris. Yeah, that was 2017. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Or 18, one of the two. Oh, you'll know better. Yeah, you were there for internship.
Yes, yes. How's it going, man? Vidur, what's up?
It's going well, man. It's going well. Still working from home last year or so. So it's getting to me a bit, but I think overall it's going quite well.
You're still working from home, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm working from home, but it's going to open soon. So I think a couple of more weeks, maybe a month more to the max.
Hmm.
So things have already started opening up because I'm a new employee, sort of a thing. I'm not a new employee technically, but since I've never been to office yet, they still need to induct me, so it's taking time. But a lot of people have started going in now.
Yeah, awesome. Are you vaccinated yet?
Yeah, man, I'm vaccinated, fully vaccinated.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So, all right, Vidur, let's start with the your journey from school to like getting into design. What drove you to design? I remember you. You were a great student also, and your school was next to mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have been in IITs and some kick-ass top engineering colleges from India. What drove you to design? What was that? How did that happen?
I think it was very unexpected, and I think that is the case for most designers, especially in India. I'm quite sure about that. Like, I did not know what I was getting into while I was getting into design. I don't know if you know this, but when I gave my entrance for IST, I actually gave my entrance for transport as a transport designer. So I wanted to join
Shit.
I
I
wanted to
didn't know
join
that.
I wanted to join the transport design department. So I gave the entrance exam for that, and then I got through, and then I changed my stream in the last minute. So I emailed IST that I want to change my stream, and then they asked me a few more questions, and I had like another interview of sorts, and then I got through product design from in ISD. So my
You.
entrance exam I was totally not sure. I had no clue what to do. I just got some wise advice that you can jump from product design to transport, but it's harder to jump from transport to product. And I just took that and did that. So yeah, very unexpected.
And someone you had an idea about the about industrial design when you were in your school, high school, or later stage of
not
school?
not industrial design specifically. I had an idea about design generally because I have a few members of my family who are my mom's an interior designer, my uncle's an architect, so I
Wow.
knew a basic. So I'd seen technical drawings before. I'd seen what it means to live as a designer, kind of a thing, but I didn't know what product design was, or the fields of design particularly, as such. Yeah, so that was very new.
Hmm. So how was that experience like choosing product design? And I wonder why would you even go for transportation design, because the kind of likes you had, as far as I know you. So yeah.
Yeah, that is something I realized within the first couple of weeks of being in ISD, that I couldn't have been a transport designer, and I was so glad that I changed my field. Couple of reasons. One, because I don't think I was as passionate about cars as others were, and I'd never met somebody who was so passionate before I came to ISD. So I did not really know how crazy people can be after cars in a way. Like in our college, people were crazy after cars, even if they were good or bad designers. That's a separate thing, but they were super passionate about cars.
Yeah.
So that is not something that I had at all. So that was one good thing. And secondly, I realized that I was not into car designing as such anyway. I was more interested in designing the smaller parts. So I would be more interested in in designing, say the steering wheel or the gear shift or something like that, over designing the whole body and styling the entire car. So that was great. I mean, I was totally happy, glad to be in product design, and still am.
What made you to leave ISD? Because I think
uh,
you left it midway, right?
yeah, I left after the first year. I did my foundation year. So one of the main reasons that I left ISD, which probably I did not understand at the time completely, also was I did not just want to do commercial design. I felt that ISD was geared and oriented towards commercial design, and they were great at what they did, like creating commercial design portfolios and stuff. They're amazing at that. But I mean, there was more to design at that stage, at least, that I wanted to explore. So, and also I was lucky that I got into, one of the colleges that I wanted to. So after my first year, in fact, after 6 months of joining ISD, I got into that college and I knew I was going to leave. So it was like a planned thing from the very start.
This is IED, right?
No, I went to UCA, University of the Creative Arts in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. When did
And
IED happen?
IED was my second year of UK. So IED was an exchange program for about 7-8 months in Milan. So yeah, I went there to the UK first and then to Milan from there.
Yeah. So like, how was that experience from switching from one design school to?
I don't know how much change it brought to design, but definitely a big cultural change. Like I was not exposed. I was not exposed to, like, especially a foreign education of sorts. Doesn't matter if it was the UK or Milan. Like everything was new to me. But overall, I think I liked the fact that there was a lot of freedom. There was way more freedom. You weren't asked to follow steps in a design process. You weren't asked to follow a particular mindset, which was great. Both good and bad. People can also get lost if they're not told to follow a particular mindset, and it's good because then gives you kind of more freedom and opportunity to explore. So I think in terms of core education, it was very different, but overall I think, in the sense, if you kind of evaluate the exposure that you got in the UK and studying there, not because I was traveling but because of the university, I think it was great in terms of opening up, in terms of seeing new kinds of design, other fields of design, other fields of art. How's art and design? How can art and design be sort of mixed? I'm not an artist, so I couldn't relate to that before I actually went there. So those kind of things were good.
Yeah, because I think UCA is one of the finest unis out there, right? To study design, especially.
It's great for art and design as a whole. So they basically have about 4 or 5 campuses around England, and each campus sort of specializes in one art field. So one campus would specialize in, say, film and FAV and all that kind of stuff. One of them would specialize in architecture and interior design and those kind of things. One would specialize in graphics and those. So they were kind of divided into different fields. So you could really see what they specialize in within the campus, which is great.
All right. And you chose industrial design, product design.
Product design interaction, yes. So I was doing product design interaction.
All right. So how is the curriculum there like shift, like getting exposed to design where a lot of great people are there, like also killing it. So how did that place help you to get what you wanted to do? As you mentioned that you are not a person who would go for a commercial design environment, for example.
I wasn't opposed to commercial design. To be very honest, that is what I do at the moment also. But at the time, I was not keen on just doing that. It was a little kind of opening your horizons. It was a bachelor's degree, it wasn't even a master's degree that what you want to do. Honestly, whoever comes into design has no clue what design is. So I was the same. So in that sense, I think the curriculum particularly over there was very open-ended, in the sense that you had, compared to ISD, where you had almost 7 hours of classes every day. That was something like 9 to 5 or something. That's what happened at ISD. And in the UK, you had like classes 2 hours a day, maybe 2 hours a day, sometimes not even that. So it was totally very open-ended. You were left in the library, do whatever research you want. You don't want to do it, don't do it. There was no attendance, there was absolutely nothing. So you were left to yourself.
Do you think that was the environment you wanted, or
looking back, at the time I did not know. At the time it was a little scary also, because I could see a lot of students producing crazy work, which I couldn't because I was kind of just exploring. But but looking back, I think it was good in the sense that you learned. At least I learned a lot apart from product design at UCA, which was good. And a couple of jobs that I did after really helped in that. It was not just about designing a product or learning techniques of manufacturing and all those kind of things, but generally how the art world works, how what's the difference between design being conceived in Europe versus design being conceived in India. How do people understand that? How do what are the commercial implications of it? So there are a lot of things around basically the liberal arts around design. You can call it that.
Yeah. So I think you were a student volunteer also, and it's from UCA for London Design Festival, right? I think
I'm really into exhibitions and design festivals and those kind of things. I think I've tried to go to all of the design festivals I could, especially during my undergrad days. Even while I was at ISD, I went to the Dutch Design Week, which was my first design festival. And
I clearly remember that.
And from there, from there, I think I took part in as a volunteer in the London Design Week. I was I wasn't a volunteer there, but I was helping out a particular university at Salone del Mobile in Milan as well. So those small things, I'm really into that.
Wow. So after your creative UCA experience, what did you went for internships, or were you designing products?
So at UCA, we were doing one, design of products, and secondly, I was doing interaction design partly. I started that. A couple of experiences that I did around while I was at UCA. One of them was Milan, of course, ID. That was the biggest this thing. So we had to do an internship in our second year. That was part of the curriculum. But if you're an exchange student, you did not have to do an internship. You went there. And I think that was one of my best decisions to go to Milan. I totally loved Milan. One, it was sort of a break from what you learn, in college anyways, because, when you're in college for 2 years, you sort of get used to that pattern, that way of thinking, that kind of curriculum, those teachers, same students, that kind of stuff. But when I went to Milan, students were different. Everybody was international, because I was in the English speaking class in Milan. So everybody who came there was, not from there. So it was a different vibe. It was a different kind of learning. People were way more serious, way more mature, I felt. I don't know why that happened, but somehow they were. So I think I made great friends there. Maybe not friends, but I learned a lot from, the kind of work that those guys did. They were more driven towards startups. They were more driven towards, producing something cool, which they can put out into the market, those kind of things. So I think that was something very new for me in Milan.
And how was it different from UCA, their curriculum and stuff?
In terms of, I think it was not as relaxed as it was at UCA. So in Milan, the classes, we had very long classes. We had exams. We had written exams in Milan. So, the curriculums were structured in a way that, you had to kind of take notes during the entire class and then study those notes and then produce, papers so that you could submit and get grades on it. So you went back to that kind of teaching mechanism, whatever you want to call it, rather than, UCA, where they sort of left you in the open and kind of, you found your own way. So that was the main difference, I think.
I think it's also a really good college to study transportation design, right? Because I see a lot of people from ID, like good transportation designers.
ID is great for transport. ID is also great for fashion. For fashion, they've got a separate campus, which is called ID Moda, which is not where I did. It's also in Milan, but not the campus that I was at. And transport design otherwise is also great there.
Yeah, man, like you talk about Milan, I think it's the fashion capital.
Milan. Yeah. Also design capital in that sense. Design product.
I think they have this design festival also. I'm forgetting the name.
Salone del Mobile. The Milan Fair. Yeah.
That is also it's really, really crazy.
Yeah. It's huge. It's the biggest
you've been there?
fair I've ever seen. Like, I've been there. That's where I worked as well, like volunteered for. I was telling you. So that was that's I think one of the biggest in scale. I don't know about I mean, it depends what you're searching for. So, for example, one year they would have a furniture fair, the other year they would have a lighting fair. So, sort of depends on what you're interested in, and you would go for that. But it's huge. Yeah, you can't cover it in a day or even in a week.
It used to happen once a year.
It happens every April. Yeah, I think this year it's happening in September, second week or first week. But otherwise, it generally happens in April.
Yeah. I think when you are exposed to such environments, it also impacts you as a designer also. So what was your scene after IED? Were you looking for jobs, or you wanted to study more and like explore design?
So after ID, I think so for my final year, I went back to the UK. I was so we had to submit a dissertation and all those kind of things that you have to do for your undergrad. So that year was very busy academically. We are doing a lot of stuff there. Started getting into furniture at the time, but didn't really know what I wanted to do. A lot of it was around interaction and experiences as well, designing for that. And by that, I don't mean digital interfaces. That could mean things like installations. It could mean things like just experiential spaces or something like that. And what I did after that, after UCA, was I joined a design factory, which was a place where I worked for a couple of years, and they did a lot of this kind of work. So they specialize in museum designs. So they design expertise. They sort of work around things like experiential spaces, experiential offices, museum experiences. I don't know. They do product design as well, but it's more about experiences than it is about design. So that's where I worked for a couple of years.
Yeah, this sounds very intriguing, man. Like, tell us about museum design, man. Like, how does it work? Like, if you have a project of designing museums, so how just throw your brain, man. Like, how do you do that?
I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about it, but yeah, I started off with a lot of projects over there. We did sort of completed 2 that I remember, but yeah, we were doing a lot of government projects, which was very interesting at the time. So, and very different from anything else that I'd done before, because government projects is a different ballgame in India. So you're not just supposed to design; you're supposed to do a lot of other things around that too. So we were doing that. So we did a lot of proposals. We worked on a proposal for designing a museum of Indian Railways at CST, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminal. We won that competition, but the project got stalled after that. We took part in fact, we won this one and we started executing it. We were designing a museum on Subhash Chandra Bose inside the Red Fort in Delhi. So in the Red Fort, there are a few barracks, and it's ready now. It's alive now. There are a few barracks, and each barrack was being converted into a mini museum of sorts. So one of them was on India's first freedom struggle, 1857, and then there was one on Subhash Chandra Bose. There was one on the World War. There were different kind of museums going around there. So we did one. I was a part of the project that was working on Subhash Chandra Bose. So that included everything from meeting a historian who knew things, setting up a research team, setting up, getting all that content that we should put in, getting that content verified from the government, working with the culture ministry so that they could basically help us complete the project, give us those kind of permissions, and then obviously working on the design part of it. So design would be everything from the products that go in, the experiences that go in, installations that go in, even the interiors to some extent, though I was not a big part of that. I was more towards the experience part of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing some kind of booklets you had shared. I think they printed one. I think the project. I think I remember that. Is it on the internet? I would like to put it in the description.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. After this. Yeah.
Yeah. So where was it based? Design Village. It was in Delhi, right? If I'm
the Design Factory. So Design Factory. Sorry. Yeah, Design Factory is based in Noida. Yeah, in Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
The Design Village is a sister school of sorts of the Design Village.
They belong to the same family, right?
Yeah. So they're all sister companies.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. So tell us about your how did you get influenced to design, right? As you mentioned that your mother is an interior designer,
And
Yeah.
how did it help? I'm sure like growing up, it has also like given you a perspective about if you'd like to go into design and pursue what she was doing, or I'm sure it affected you lot in terms of design, or
I
or or,
so,
or maybe it didn't.
no, definitely it was a good introduction to what design means and what design is. So I wouldn't say that I was totally alien to design in the sense that what other students when they enter design college are, the stage they're at. But my mom was a freelancer, so she did a very the projects she did were, in terms of scale, they were limited to one person or two people designs, or they were generally one or two projects at a time. That was not so I was not exposed to the scale at which design can be kind of worked at least from that perspective. And it was only hardcore interior design. So you would always take plans, you would take office plans,
Yeah.
floor plans of houses and stuff like that, and sketch on that. And that is not what really happened when you got into ISD and all, because we weren't even taught how to draft drawings, right? Like that wasn't a thing. So it changed completely to what I was exposed to. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I was totally alien to it.
But I'm sure they supported you to get an idea about the design and like study wherever you wanted.
I think yes.
And-
The value of design was there. That is the most important thing, in the sense that
Yeah.
the value of exposure, going around, looking at different kind of projects, investing in those kind of things was all.
Yeah, because it's apparently it's interrelated, right? A lot of things in designs are interrelated. So what once you were done with your student exchange program, you were at a design factory, and at that time, what was going in your head? That you were liking the kind of projects you were doing, or what was your state of mind?
I was enjoying the kind of work because it was very rich in design thinking. It was almost like a mental exercise. You would be thinking about so much within a particular space. So everything from the furniture that would go into the experience that you would be making, to the installation that would go around, to the storytelling that would be happening, to even to the extent you were designing how the script would be written for the audio devices. So there was a lot of creativity going on around there, but I always felt that the projects were bigger than myself, in the sense that you could never control or do what you really wanted to do, because there were so many stakeholders, there were so many things that had to be done which were out of your control. So it was never a very comfortable feeling for me personally. I know a lot of people enjoy it and it's great, but I always felt that I was better at doing work with kind of objects or things, or even interfaces, experiences which are smaller in scale, and you can kind of play with it, you can kind of control it more, in a particular way. So yeah, that was my only apprehension while working there, but overall it was great.
So you then you opted for a new course after design factory?
No, so I went for industrial design at RISD. I went for
this is after design factory.
That's correct, yeah. So I was working for Design Factory for 2 years, and then in my second year, while I was at Design Factory, I applied to RISD for grad school. A few places for grad school, but yeah, I finally chose RISD, and I did industrial design there. So it was just masters in industrial design. At least that's what I went for.
How was the journey? Like, how was it different from UCA?
Oh, RISD is a different college altogether. I mean, out of all the places that I've ever been to, especially for academics, for studying, I've never seen a place like RISD. It's totally different, in the sense that the kind of people that come here are very different. The kind of facilities they have are very different. The scale at which they operate is very different. The opportunities are very different. It was, I guess, not just RISD. It was also America, because America also gives a little more opportunities in terms of funding research projects, giving opportunities to students over anybody else. There were crazy collaborations around here. So RISD so Brown University, that's also in Providence, and RISD are pretty much, you can call it the same college from a student's perspective. I could take any class I wanted at Brown. Students at Brown could take any class they wanted at RISD. So I was at Brown half of my time. Yeah, it's mad. So you can take up classes at their engineering department. You can take up classes. You can learn French. You can learn Chinese. You can do pretty much anything at Brown. And Brown has crazy level of funding for research purposes. I mean, RISD and Brown together are launching satellites, and I'm not even joking. Like they have a satellite club where they develop satellites and they pitch those projects to NASA, and then NASA kind of accepts them or rejects them or makes changes. So there are programs that are in these two colleges. They're funded directly by places like these. They're making rovers that'll move on the moon, and there's funding that for NASA. And it's quite nice in the sense that I won't say that I was part of this and I aced all of this at all, but in terms of just looking at students doing, a second year student designing a satellite. Can you imagine that? That's great.
Bro, I mean, this sounds only fascinating to me. Man.
Yeah, I think doing an undergrad in such kind of such kind of college is a different thing. But yeah, even grad school for that matter was quite interesting.
Yeah, because at this point, you have been exposed to design for some time now. Now you're at a new place, learning a different segment of design. And as you mentioned, man, like that's like a dream place to be, right? Where you can go to a university and pick a course you want, right? Without even anyone asking question about it. So that's
I mean at RISD we had per semester you could take as many credits as you want. There was no cap to that as well. So generally the way colleges work, at least in the US, is that you sort of pay for the credits that you have to take, and you have to take a certain number of credits to graduate. And that's how the tuition fee is calculated. But at RISD, how it worked was the tuition fee was fixed and you could take as many credits as you wanted. The problem was that you couldn't take beyond a certain number of credits because it will exhaust you. So that is the formula RISD works on. So the default number of credits that you take per semester is 15. But if you want, you can go to 18, you can go to 19, you can go to 20. But the higher you go, the crazier it gets because of the workload. Wow. So, and out of that, I think compulsory credits were like 6. So the classes that were fixed for me were just 6 credits or 9 credits. And the remaining were totally empty. You could do whatever you want. You could go to the graphic design department, you go to the furniture design department, you go to the sculpture department, whatever you wanted to.
And what were your favorite classes there? Like, did you explore there?
I think
Chinese
short time, not yet. I wish I could. Mandarin, yeah. I wish I could, but no. I took classes. So I took a couple of classes at Brown. I was taking a class at their biomed engineering department. I was taking a class at their computer science department for interaction design. I took a few classes in graphic design, furniture design. I took a class. Where else did I do? I did liberal arts. I did quite a few things outside of industrial design over here too. But RISD in particular promotes that kind of culture intentionally as well. Like they want you to do that. It's not something that I did. It's something everybody does at RISD. But yeah, that was something which is good.
I think this is how university should run, man. like as simple, and
no doubt about that.
In Indian education system needs to learn a lot from such places. Yeah,
but it's also confusing because as I was still a grad student, but as an undergrad, though it's very liberating. When you don't know what you really want to do, and you don't really you've not really seen the world, you tend to do all the fun things. You will take up courses in courses that are more hobby classes than they are career oriented. So some students do go wrong also. It's not a very ideal formula, but overall I think it's one of those that gives you the opportunity to do what you want to do over somebody spoon feeding you or somebody kind of forcing you into a particular direction.
Yeah, I mean, you have at least a platform to at least go and like figure out, okay, how this works, right? Or maybe an introduction class about something you don't know, right? Even if it is a language, right? You never know unless you try it. So I think it also helps you develop as a designer, right? To have more empathy towards different segments of design and culture, for example.
Yeah. So I think this is a big problem. So the negative part of this entire kind of a system is, as I mentioned, that students get lost, right? And what happens in the process is students don't end up taking classes that promote or foster the skill sets. So students would not be very good at sketching. They will not be very good with Photoshop. They will not be very good with 3D modeling. And that's something the college knows. It's not alien to the teachers. It's not something that they don't realize. They know this. And I remember in one of the kind of the discussions that happened in the department, one of the students asked this question to the head of industrial design at that time, and he said, if you this is happening and this is really affecting our kind of opportunities with career opportunities or approaching companies, because they want all these things. They want these boxes checkmarked. They want to know that SolidWorks, Rhino, and you can do Photoshop, and Keyshot, and all that kind of stuff. But you don't teach us that. and the answer that he gave, which was I think a very smart answer, was that we don't necessarily force you into skill sets. If you want to learn skill sets, you can, but we don't force you into it. But we definitely make sure that we give you enough education that if you want to learn a skill set, you know how to do that. So learning these kind of softwares or learning these kind of skill sets is not a very big task, to be very honest. Like, people who are good at it are good at it, but learning these tasks is something that even you can do outside of college too. So that is the kind of direction they promote. I mean, it's good or bad, whatever you want to call it, but that's what they do.
I think apparently at the end of the day, these are just tools, right? You just have to have the direction and the correct mindset. But tool is something which just needs practice, and you can get better at it if you spend time. But yeah, it can be also can be confusing when you are out of the college and maybe looking for jobs and you are not skilled enough, right?
Yeah, that is a problem, because the first thing that catches your eye in a portfolio is generally the renders. It is generally the kind of sketches you have, those kind of things. If you want to sell your research, you really need to design it well to be able to sell it. So that's where skill sets come in. So definitely not undermining the importance of skill sets, but that is the kind of I mean, I guess you can't have the best of both. You sort of have to choose between the two. So that's what is chosen. That's the only difference.
But I think you should be like skilled enough to at least communicate your design, right? Or communicate your ideas. So I think that's a basic skills a designer should have.
Yeah.
Or any creative per se.
Yeah.
So yeah. And throughout this time, you were also taking workshops and like trying more of your ideas into design and figuring out design. And I think you also had mentioned about the staff assistance program in France. Boucher.
Yeah,
that's it right.
No, so yeah, that was actually not while I was at RISD. It was before I went to RISD.
Okay. Yeah, it was very intriguing, man. You want to talk about it? I think I was very intrigued when you mentioned about this, and I said let's just talk about on the podcast. So
it is very, there's no doubt about it. It's one of my favorite places, design places I've ever been to. In fact, any place that I've ever been to.
What was it? It was like a workshop or a course, or like what was it?
So the concept of Boy Boucher is that it's Domain the Boy Boucher. So that's how you pronounce it, Boy Boucher. The concept of Boy Boucher is that
what does that mean, though?
It's a good question. I don't know. Domain is land. Boy Boucher is, I guess, just a name. I'm not sure how that came about. But it's basically
I think it's the name.
You can call it a design center of sorts, but the way it sort of is conceived is there are two owners of Boy Boucher who sort of run this practice, and they both they come from they used to work at Vitra. So if you're aware of Vitra, Vitra is a large furniture manufacturing company in Switzerland and Germany. They basically design all the classics and manufacture all the classics by Charles Eames and all those kind of things, or Jean Prouvé. You have all those. So they are basically they lead the European division of all these. They're huge. Like, I mean, if you go to the Vitra campus, it's crazy how much design they have inside that. So Alexander, who's the owner of Boy Boucher, was the director of the Vitra, or the founder of the Vitra Design Museum. So he's been at it since last 15, 20 years, and then he brought in this new idea of opening this space for education in middle of France. So Boy Boucher is essentially a center in the middle of it's in the southern mid France kind of an area, and it's some 50-60 miles from the closest city, the closest town. So it's basically in the middle of nowhere, and the land is some 100-150 hectares, and it spans across hills, and it's got a river flowing through it. It's got 2 lakes. It's got an old French castle. It's got barns, horses, sheep. Like it's like a complete it's almost like a farmland in a particular way. And this entire thing's been converted into almost a place where you can come and experiment with design. So you go there and you have these open spaces, open fields. There are people who come, experiment, build pavilions, take workshops, give classes, discuss design, do all those kind of things. And he and Matthias, who basically run Boy Boucher, are the ones who kind of curate this sort of these sort of workshops every year. during the summer for 4-5 months. So yeah, I would encourage anybody who is remotely related to design to go there. I mean, if not as a staff member, go as a participant or a visitor or something, but go there, see. I think it's very liberating in a way to be in a place where there's absolutely there's no people, to be very honest. There's no phone connection. The phone connection is very weak, and you're just between nature, and all you're supposed to do is think about design, which is very interesting.
Wow. I think
like the pavilions that have been built over there, people who experimented there have later sort of won the Pulitzer Prize. And also, you have sort of structures over there that are really built by, and there are designers that come there every year, which is they're world famous. So people, I think, should really go there. I mean,
you mentioned Pulitzer Prize, right? You mentioned about the Pulitzer Prize. Okay.
The Pulitzer Prize,
it's for writing, no?
No, Pulitzer Prize is for design. So it's one of the highest honoraries you get for design, generally towards architecture. So it would so nobody's won the Pulitzer Prize for making something at Boy Boucher. That's not the idea, but the designers that have kind of come there, built pavilions, have are of that stature. So it's very interesting to kind of work with them, see their thoughts, ideas, and in a very raw form, because you have a week, 10 days to do a workshop, and within a week, 10 days you're supposed to really deliver on an idea or thought. I took a couple of workshops there too. I worked as staff for about 2.5 months, and then I took about 2 workshops. One of them was with Sigaimis, who was at the time working as a designer at IKEA. And she had come there to just do a workshop on, how tech and how furniture and how all those kind of things kind of intervene, and how what are the thoughts regarding that. So there were about 15 students from all over the world. Of course, it's in English, though it's in France. There were all kinds of people there who sort of for 1 week just worked with her on sort of an experiment. So it wasn't the idea is not to kind of come up with a product as such, but just being there in that space, experimenting, thinking, critiquing, brainstorming, all that kind of stuff for continuous period of 7 days. And of course, it's kind of mixed with crazy parties and bonfires and all that kind of stuff, which is great.
You're in France at the end of the day.
Yeah, the wine.
They know how to party. Yeah. So how was your day like there?
In Boy Boucher?
How long was it for?
So you can go for as long as a staff, but as a participant, you go for a week. I might be wrong here, but I think it starts on a Sunday and it ends on a Saturday. And every day has been planned, and it's the same for all the weeks. So, you'll have a welcome sort of a bonfire on the first day. You'll get oriented. You'll get a campus tour, which in itself is a great thing. Getting campus tour from one of the campus guides, and they would talk about the designer. They would talk about why they came here, what they did here, how many years old this is. A lot of designers come again, do multiple workshops, those kind of things as well. So you get a campus tour, then you get introduced to your workshop. You start brainstorming within your group, critiquing whatever the intent of the workshop is. And you pretty much do that. And your workshop is structured over the next 4 days, 5 days. So you sort of have different, it could be teaching, it could be just talking, it could be presenting, it could be making, a lot of making. So there's a workshop inside of Boy Boucher too, where you can come make, use wood and soft materials and stuff like that.
And how did you get to know about this workshop from UC experience?
No, so I actually visited Boy Boucher before I went there for a workshop, and I had visited it as part of the Aqua Tour that the design tours that we used to do. So that was another thing that I used to do while I was in undergrad at a lot of levels actually. So an Aqua Tour, the one that I'm talking about right now, is an initiative by a studio called Home. They kind of get together, a bunch of designers, architects, interior design, product designers, civil engineers, content writers, everybody together, say about 20, 25 people together. And the idea is that you go to some part of the world and then you explore 100 design projects over 10 days. So that so you basically camp in a single place, and then you go to different cities from that camp, and cities or towns or outskirts, whatever that might be. And
which city did you go to?
I've been to 3 or 4 of such tours, man. So I've been to a couple of them around Western Europe, and I've been around 2 Aqua Tours in the US. So so the one that I'm talking about in Europe, the idea was you visit factories that make products, you visit studios, you visit architecture buildings, you visit museums, you visit art centers, whatever and everything that is creative, basically. And you go there, you see. It's not about spending a lot of time at a particular place, which also has its own perks, but the idea is to see as much as you can at that time and then basically come back, introspect, observe, what, all that kind of stuff. So one of the places that was a part of the Aqua Tour was Boy Boucher, and that is how it sort of gone there for the first time.
So which was your favorite ones out of all the Aqua Tours you had?
No, and hard to point that out. I mean, all of them were different. Like one of them was specific to Corbusier. So we were visiting all Corbusier projects in Europe. A lot of them in France, a lot of them in Switzerland, all that kind of things. Then there was one we did, which was on the West Coast in the US, which was all about tech firms. So was it Google, you was at Apple, you was at LinkedIn, you visit all these offices, you go to the SF Design Week, San Francisco Design Week, you go to Twitter and all those kind of things. So that has its own charm, that this has its own charm. So yeah, hard to point out.
So it used to have presetted plans and the theme before.
For sure. There was like a book on it. We used to make a book on it before we used to go. So the project, the date we'll be visiting that project, and the opening times and who to contact and booking tours and all that kind of stuff. So it was like a properly well planned thing, and it was a very low budget, almost like a excursion of sorts. So you would not spend on hotels, you would camp. So you would take a tent and you would pitch it wherever you find space, mostly in camping grounds, but you'll carry like all those pre-packed MTR food so that you don't have to spend on food. So all you have to do is buy rice and so many times we were making rice and I don't know, heating stuff up on the side, on the roadside, which is sort of illegal in a lot of countries too. You can't start a fire on the road, right? So being called off by the police in Central Park, I remember in New York, we got called off because we couldn't light a fire there. So yeah, it's a fun thing. You're just jumping around, jumping over fences to look at buildings and projects because they're closed and it's midnight and all those kind of things. So it's quite fun.
Wow. So this is before RISD happened, right?
This is before RISD. Yeah.
All this experience did all this experience led you to spend more time in design, like studying design?
For sure, yes.
You had an idea about do you need to what you would like to learn more or stuff?
So in terms of specialization, probably not so much, but I realized what I wanted to kind of work towards after I came to RISD. So at RISD, one of the few things that I saw, and as I mentioned, I took a few classes at Brown, was design for health. That was not something that I'd been exposed to in Europe or India. It almost practically does not exist. All the kind of med companies or studios of med companies, so the design part of all these, so whether you take Philips Healthcare, whether you take J&J, take Virgin Pulse for that matter, you take you take all these companies that develop industrial products for medicine. They develop experiences, they develop programs, NGOs. IDEO does a lot of that kind of work too. That happens in the US. So that was my first time I got exposed there, and I was able to take a few classes at Brown's medical department. They have a huge med school. So when I was doing biomed engineering over there at Brown, we were working in a hospital, with doctors.
Wow.
We were working. It's called Lifespan. Lifespan is a company here for healthcare. We're working with them. We were working with different startups that were emerging for healthcare at the time. And then it grew out of proportion because of COVID. Of course, when COVID happened, then there was crazy funding for healthcare and all that stuff happened. But even before that, I think there was a lot going on. They have a huge school for public health. So generally, a lot of people around this area in New England, which was great.
Okay. And so you were studying healthcare design. Was it anything like was close to the design you have studied before that, or did it give you an edge, or like?
I think yes. It's pretty much the same in the sense that if you're a qualified designer, you can design for health. It's not a new ball game at all. You're still designing either interactions, or you're still designing products, or you're designing one of the 2-3 things. There are a few different things. There's this process called the biodesign process, which is also a design process, but specifically caters to design for health. So if you want to design medical equipment or you want to design devices, there are structured design processes that exist for that. I particularly feel that they are a little more oriented towards engineering, because that's a very big part of medical equipment that needs to be top notch when it comes to engineering. So yes, you can follow that, but I wouldn't say that it's something that a regular designer can't do. So it's no special skill set. It's just one of those that you learn over time, and that's with any field. You learn the intricacies of it. You learn how to deal with the stakeholders. You learn what the sensitive parts are about a project, what are not the sensitive parts. So so you learn those kind of things, which definitely helps.
Yeah, and also I think like healthcare is something which is also sensitive to compare to the other segments of design, right? Because it also gonna impact a lot of people who are suffering from diseases, for example, and making that scenario better to have that correct space to nurture that correct environment for them.
Sort of I agree that with that. I mean, design for health, I mean, it should be promoted for sure, though it should probably still not be classified as a separate field. It can still be within the engineering department and within the design department.
I think because I don't even know if like in our country, if you talk about if I don't think if there's a segment for healthcare design, right? And there's a huge.
It's also the hardest thing to design, to be honest, because the users are they're very. I mean, they're at a very extreme stage, if I can call it that. So for example, if I'm designing a stretcher for a hospital, my user base would be people under immense stress, people who are don't really care about the product, so they'll be abusing it, throwing it around because they have much bigger priorities. It's one of those places where the users are almost kind of not in their regular state of mind, if I can call it that. It's not that they would be enjoying, they would be touching it, they'd be, when we think of ergonomics and we think of, CMF and all those kind of things, yes, these are important, but these are important from a psychological perspective. They're important from, aiding a particular person complete their function rather than a lot of other aspects design is generally considered to be. So I feel it's a very raw form of design, in the sense that if you go wrong in your basics while you're designing medical equipment, you'll really go wrong. You can't cover it up with a beautiful layer or a skin or a color or something like that, because it's something that that like most medical equipment is white and blue, right? Like nobody cares about anything else. But yeah, that's the idea. How much of the core can you go to, and how much of the sort of the skin you can probably manipulate within a particular project.
And I think you also did a thesis project for the healthcare department.
That's right. Yeah. So at RISD, in my final year, I did pretty much all my projects were geared towards healthcare, and one of them was the thesis. Thesis, what was particularly interesting, and exactly further to what I was talking about, my main aim was to understand, one, we talk about the design process as being, the epitome of being able to solve all these world problems and all this kind of thing. So kind of trying to put it to practical use, and kind of trying to prove that design goes beyond making plastic stuff. It's not just about molding. It's not just about creating cool things. It's not about creating something that looks good. But how do you actually? And it's not also about designing a system, because that is something I was quite against while I was at RISD, because I felt that if you want to impact systems, then you need to be in a position that you can impact systems. And as an academic, sometimes if you're just designing systems, they're out of your reach. You can never implement those, and that doesn't help, because that's not what you're supposed to give as a designer. You're supposed to give practical solutions, and this is not a solution since it can't be implemented. So I was very keen on trying to not change the system, but trying to intervene within the system, and then trying to make something that through a design process, so through sort of design research, through critiquing, brainstorming, following that kind of a pattern, come up with something that might be impactful at a larger scale, but not a large scale product. That's what I meant.
So you had to change places for your thesis?
For research, yes. So for research, I did most of my research. So I took the very basic user, and I took a rural user. So I did some research around different parts of rural communities. So a lot of it in Africa, part of it in the US as well, definitely India, a lot of it in India. And then because I was just more comfortable, I spoke the language and all those kind of things. I went in depth with India. I went to Bihar. I went to about 7 or 8 towns in Bihar. And by towns, I mean places where you can't even drive a car. So, you would have to, yeah. So it's one of those areas where there is no way an ambulance can reach. So, I mean, that's if you don't have a road, there's no ambulance, right? So what do those guys do? Taking up simple things like 50% of India does not speak English. So, and all medicines are written in English. So what do you do about that? Like people can't read medicine. So how does that work? So there are some very basic issues. It's not about redesigning a medical packaging project, or it's not about redesigning an ambulance. It's about designing for people who don't have roads, people who can't read. I saw hospitals where they had painted lines on the walls, and they would basically tell people to follow the yellow line if they wanted to go to the X-ray department, and follow the black line if they wanted to get to the gynae ward, because they couldn't read signage.
That's some genius.
So how do you deal? That's crazy, right? Like, so how do you deal with people who, and a lot of times, within India, there's so many languages, and people, even if they speak one language, they might not understand Hindi or English, or more of the languages that are spoken more commonly. And all these biggest central hospitals, you talk about Safdarjung Hospital, for example, in Delhi. That's the biggest central hospital.
Yeah.
Just a central, like AIIMS is partly.
I think it's in the country, in fact. It's one of
the AIIMS is the biggest, but it's co-owned by the center and the other one. But Safdarjung is purely central. So the idea is that any hospital that can't treat a patient sends them to a higher ranked, or in the hospital that's higher in hierarchy. And Safdarjung is the final hospital. There's nothing, you can't go beyond that in the country, right? So if you go there, the doctors in Safdarjung can't refer you to another hospital. They have to treat you. They have to take you in. There is no option. So if there are 100 beds and there are 200 people there, they have to take them in. And now that creates a big problem, right? How do you take in 200 people when there is just 100 beds? And then there's a lot of cultural clash in India. So one patient comes with 5 family members. Hospitals aren't designed for that. So hospitals can't house 5 family members per patient, but they come here because India is a collectivistic society. People, families come, friends come, neighbors come. There are cars that come. I mean, total.
They sleep on the floor. Then
they sleep on the floor. They sleep on the pavement. They sleep on. It goes totally mad. And you need proper sort of infrastructure for it. You need bathrooms for these people. You need cooking. These guys can't afford to just eat outside every day. So they make their own food. So where do they cook? And everything has to happen inside of a hospital, which is just quite crazy when you think of it. So there are so many problems at a basic level that I thought design could kind of change, could intervene with. And a lot of these things don't come up as statistics in major research organizations. So when you read McKinsey reports and EY reports and all those kind of things, they'll have statistical data that we have these many beds, we have these many patients, we don't have these many. We need these many extra beds, but that is not what's really happening. The problem is that with that one bed, there are 5 other people that come along, which are not counted. So it was about those kind of observations.
And I think, man, recently, second wave of COVID hit India very badly, and at that time, everyone was just very confused about how do they manage this disease, because a lot of people also died from not getting enough oxygen. And like for the cities, there were platforms like Twitter where they were helping each other and like looking for oxygen. But then later it hit the rural part of the country, and they got impacted more than the people who are in the cities, right? So I just and even the statistics can't be right, as you mentioned that there are places where even ambulance can't go, and stuff like that. So it's very important to have that at least a basic environment of understanding healthcare as a whole. Especially
and you have to see to observe this. You can't understand this out of any statistical report or anything on the internet. I mean, I remember I was shadowing a doctor in Bihar, one of the doctors. So I was following him for an hour. So all the patients that he saw, I was along with them. And there was this one patient who had come from some village, and so the doctor asked him what kind of medicines he's been taking for the last couple of weeks. And he gives him the medicines, and the medicines were wrapped in a newspaper. So it was
Wow.
a piece of paper and the medicines were in it. And there was some guy sitting under some tree in his village that had given him the medicine. So there was no way even the
No.
doctor could know what he's been eating since the last 2 weeks, right? And then how do you calculate this? What happens? What does the system do? And this is something you can't change. I mean, if somebody gets sick in a village, they will go to a temple first and then they will go to a hospital. They will not go to a
Yeah.
hospital and then a temple. And that is a fact. You can't change that.
Yeah.
So, it's easier. It's sort of, the system needs to accommodate this instead of, letting that go.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I think the main reason is of course, the education, the awareness, right? Because they believe in God more than in doctors, because this is what they're being seen, I think. And that's a main problem with the third world country, especially India, right? So yeah, I'm sure it like listening to all this information, I'm sure it also impacted you as a designer and also as a human, right? Growing up in India and traveling the world, and then going to such place, seeing all of this um, um, all of this stuff, which is very dark in a way, man, right?
Yeah, I mean that's real. That's a real world, right? That's what's
Yeah.
happening, and that's where design should really can intervene, and that's how it will gain recognition as well. If we keep designing things that look better or have some a small tweak in a phone or something of that sort, it does not really talk about the power of design. The power of design actually rests when you use those methodologies of critiquing, brainstorming, mapping out things, of narrowing down things. The basis of a design process, when you use that for, I'm not talking about doing social good necessarily. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you can also take something which is something as small as a band-aid, or something as small as a medical packaging or something like that, and solve a lot of big problems.
Yeah, man, it's a scene. And it's first of all, it's so great to hear so much information from you, man, and how much we like looking at the healthcare segment is important. And do you also encourage people to study healthcare design? And how do you think, if someone wants to dig deeper into healthcare design, if that guy is in India, for example, and wants to dig into healthcare design?
It's hard, man. I mean, I'll be honest, it's very hard. And
Mhm.
it's hard because, not because you won't be able to do it, it's hard because you won't be able to sell it. In the sense that pitching an idea or pitching a direction to any of the bureaucrats or any of the people who are already within the system, it's very
Yeah.
hard to do. You have to produce something, you have to have something tangible, or something digital, whatever, and then show that and say that, okay, this is what's going to change and this is how it's going to change. But explaining a design process, explaining the methodology, explaining the backend part of it, in India, I found very hard. I mean, till the time I showed them my final product, I don't think anybody over a span of 1 year understood what I was doing. It was very clear.
Yeah, that's actually very sad too.
But that's true for most fields in design, honestly. It's not just healthcare design.
Yeah.
It's just that within healthcare, probably there is more attention going towards clinical services than non-clinical services. So unless you're designing for hardcore clinical services, that you're going to use this tool in heart surgery, unless you're going in that route, it's a different thing. But if you're designing for non-clinical services, it's very hard to get kind of traction.
Now I think I think in this COVID scenario, healthcare also improved drastically as a whole community from all over the world. And I think I hope that um, this time also leads to some to better healthcare, especially in a country like India. And more people digs deeper into this, right? Because this is the main issue with the developing countries, that because it's not something which generate a lot of money, right? And it helps people. That's why also they don't want to dive into healthcare, right? Because they don't see any um,
monetary value in it.
Yeah, monetary value in that.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I felt more than it being a developing country or a developed country. That's a separate argument. But the problem was the entire system has been adopted from the West, right? So the kind of hospitals we have, the kind of the system of healthcare. So how an ambulance is called, how an ambulance reaches, and what happens when you get there. How does the onboarding process in a hospital happen? How does the admission process happen? All those kind of things have been taken very directly from a lot of other countries, and that necessarily does not support our culture. So Indian culture is very different from the Western culture, and the people who are being treated and the people who are treating are very different. So it is very important to accommodate them, to accommodate that those humanities, to accommodate those the emotional part of it, the kind of sort of the cultural. I don't have another word for it, but the cultural part of that mindset. There are going to be 10 people with every patient. That is a fact. You can't change it. The person's going to go to a temple. You can't change it. So instead of trying to change it, let's make the system or intervene within the system so that it accommodates these kind of behaviors or these kind of patterns that most likely would not change.
Wow. Man, there's so much information to it. What were the main takeaways from your thesis? And what were the main idea about you going to Bihar, and how long were you there?
I was not very long there for very long. I did about a 3-week research project. So those 3 weeks spanned across. So I was mainly in Patna, which is where I did a lot of my research, which is the capital of Bihar. Then I went to a lot of small villages. My idea was actually to shadow 4 things. One, shadow a doctor. So be with a doctor and see what the process is over there, because he's the main stakeholder. Second one, be with the patient, the second main stakeholder. So be around the patient. Third was be around the space. So how does the infrastructure within, not just hospitals, but even other kind of infrastructure, ambulance, the clinics or PHCs and those kind of things work. And the third one was a medical staff. So mainly a nurse. So I had to shadow these 4 people, and I tried to do it within all tiers. So within rural parts, and by rural, I mean, if you can't take a car, just imagine what the facility is going to be like. It's going to be a room. It's just a room with a desk and a table. That's pretty much what it is, and you stay there and you see how that works in that space, how people store their equipment. I mean, things that I saw are crazy, dude. I saw a dog in an operation theater. Can you beat that? A stray dog in an operation theater. Wow. I saw surgical gowns being they were washed and they were being dried on like a fence outside of the hospital, which is they need to be
stuff.
Yeah, they just don't have that kind of sterilization, the processes that they require to keep all those things sterilized. They just can't do it. So there are all kinds of things that are happening over there, and there's so much scope design has. I mean, keeping blood samples on the road. I mean, I can go on. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Even lately at when COVID was at its peak, it was even a test was a nightmare to do, man. Like the hospitals was filled with people inside, outside, and people are confused about getting injections and stuff like that. So yeah, I think awareness plays a lot of role, especially in this extreme scenarios, right? And I think at this time we need to realize the value of healthcare design in general, and also being just a designer, industrial designer, or any creator. I think also it gives a lot of scope to what you can contribute to the healthcare. So you were doing this thesis for in RISD, right?
Yeah, I was doing this in RISD. It was my final year thesis. Yeah.
And how did it come out? How did they react to it?
Oh, it was quite nice. Yeah. I got funding and all for it, so it was great. Wow. It was fun. Won a couple of awards also on it. It was like overall one of those things that was research driven, which I had not done before. Well, I had, but not really to an extent which I would be satisfied with. So it was almost like a research driven thing. I was in the entire thing. I was very sure that I want to design something which is practically doable. So something that was the biggest challenge. That how do you make something that can be either produced or can at least be understood by most people, not at a systemic level, but at a product level. That intervention should be very impactful today. It shouldn't be a futuristic concept. It shouldn't have ifs and buts. It shouldn't be like, if we have the funding for it, we could do this. That's not the idea. If the idea is that you see how the tenders of hospitals are released, what their costings are, and if they can replace a stretcher, if they can't replace a bed, and if they can, then can this product fit into that particular costing structure? That was the idea of this entire project. So I think I was very satisfied with being able to kind of come up with something through a design process, which was not something that at least I had done before overall. So I think it was conceived well in that sense, that it was a very sort of a fun approach to something which was very serious.
Yeah, that's very insightful. So like at this point, you've got your vibe you always wanted, which was healthcare design, right? And I think currently,
I mean, yeah, I'm still open to change. It's definitely on right now. So I would say I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know if it's permanent or not. Yeah,
but I think currently also you are doing you're working into healthcare design, right?
Yeah, I'm working for preventive healthcare right now. So I work with Virgin Pulse, and they design preventive healthcare apps. They design wellness apps and devices and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So they work at a corporate level for preventive healthcare.
All right. So you're liking it? You're learning that?
I think a lot of learning in the sense that I've never worked in a corporate before I joined Virgin Pulse. So the scale at which they operate, the impact that they can have, because they have thousands of clients. Like one change and it affects thousands of people immediately. So that's great to see. That's fun to work with. That kind of a concept is fun to work with.
Do they have a medical hardware or software they work with?
Yeah, so they have both. So they have their own trackers and those kind of things. It's preventive healthcare, so they are getting into digital therapeutics as well. And in fact, that is the team I'm working with as well. So they do things. I mean, they have courses and solutions for people with pre-diabetes, with people struggling with weight, people doing all these new sort of kind of not people who are not somebody who has type 2 diabetes, but somebody who has type 1 diabetes. Clinically, they're not fine, but it's not an extreme level of illness. So they're still around there, which is fun to work with. It's a very new thing for Virgin Pulse as well. They've always been within preventive healthcare, and now this slowly stemming into almost with this concept of home base for health, where they want to create a single basic place where you can go for all your healthcare needs. So yeah.
Sounds like this needs a lot of research also, right?
Oh yeah. We have a research team that does a lot of research, a lot of user research, and so there are two kinds of research that happen. One of them is just for the product, for the design, the sort of the sales, the main corporate part of it, and the other one is the clinical part. So there is a content team that writes all the clinical data, writes all the lessons and chapters and those kind of things, and they specialize. They're basically trained professionals, so they're either medical professionals or they're writers who worked in the medical field, so they do that kind of stuff. And then there are other regular researchers that you and I work with otherwise.
And the statistics are for US based or for other countries also?
Oh no, they're all over. They're all over. Yeah. So yeah, they have a lot of languages, a lot of cultures, a lot of they work with a lot of clients.
Wow. What insightful stuff, man. What do you think that there's like okay, talking about India, we are at this stage where maybe people are maybe getting a little aware about the design, different segments of design, and you also spend some time studying design. And what do you think that they need to improve? And also you're also mentoring a lot of people lately, right?
That's just a part of a COVID relief fundraising campaign that all the alumni of RISD are doing, the Indian chapter. So there's an Indian chapter of the alumni of the college, where basically the group of people, they started by a few five, 6 guys who I don't know, graduated some few years back, and they sort of led this initiative of gathering a lot of people coming together and raising money on three parts. One of them was product sales. So if you make something, you sell that, that goes to COVID relief. Second one was mentorship, which is what I'm part of. And the third one was workshops. So any workshops that, you specialize in, you can do. So there's this mentorship session that I've been doing with them. There are a lot of other students, also, other graduates also who've been doing that, but that's mainly around COVID.
Yeah. So I was asking you about the Indian design education scene. What do you think is the need of the hour they need to talk about? But this is the high time where we genuinely put some really good pointers to the design education system. So what do you think we are lacking in?
That's very hard.
I'm sure
I think
there
that's
are
a very
lot of
hard
things. Yeah,
that's a very hard question to answer in the sense that I'm not probably the best one to answer this, because
probably,
a lot of it is also to do with the students that come in, more than what you can do with the students, right? Like an education system can do. I particularly feel that a lot of students are very passionate about trying to do something. You know about YDI, right? Like that's where we see a lot of students talking about their experiences in college and what they can't do and what they would want to do, but there's just not enough resources. And that's true. I mean, there's no doubt about that. That's very true. The kind of opportunities, like you would never get an opportunity to make a satellite, that kind of thing will not, that kind of thing will not happen, because that kind of a framework does not exist right now. So I don't know how it's going to improve, particularly, to be very honest. I guess till the time we don't have enough, I think till the time we don't have good paying jobs, it won't improve, because that is what gets students into a field. And right now, a lot of people get into design. A lot of people get into design today in India because they couldn't get into engineering, or whether they couldn't crack an exam, and they, or they did not want to study out of books or something like that, and that's just sad, because the kind of students you end up getting are not then that driven towards probably impacting a particular kind of I don't know, industry. It's more about, just sustaining. And that's, till the time you don't have those high paying jobs, I don't think it'll attract the kind of talent it should.
Talking about YDI. So those who doesn't know, YDI is a Young Designers India community. It's a community of designers and design students. And there are more than 1,500 people now on it. And it's a really, and if you're listening to this and you're studying design or a designer, you should definitely check them out. I'll anyways I'll add the link. Talk about YDI, man. Like, I love that place, right? Every time I'm not so active in the Discord server, if we talk about, but whenever I go there, I find a lot of information, and it feels so good to see people genuinely spending time to educate each other, spread awareness, and sharing work. So it's really good to see, man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. It's hard. Even for myself, I'm probably the least active of the, of the 5-6 of us who actually work on it. But yeah, YDI was started by one of our common friends, Sushanti. It was his initiative. And then we are about 5-6 people who are now kind of working on different aspects of it. So, from everything from social media to running a Discord channel to kind of thinking what else we could do, what could the future plans of YDI be, to starting blogs and all those kind of things. So it's the idea, the intent is to build a community of design within India, especially for the purpose that we were just describing, that there aren't many opportunities. Getting them together, just a place where you can ask stupid questions, place where you can share good answers, place where you can sort of get feedback on your work. It's almost like a big critiquing group. It's something like if you want to do a project and you want quick research on it, or you want quick feedback on it, it's a great place for that. You can also just be a silent observer and go through different channels. So you have channels for graphics, for product, for UX, for space, for all these kind of design fields that you can just browse through. So you'll find crazy links that are things that are going around. A lot of local scenes also. So if somebody's doing a workshop, somebody's doing an exhibition, not right now obviously because of COVID, but overall there's a lot of traction with those things. So the main idea is to build a community where people can discuss, talk, share views, and then overall kind of celebrate design in a collectivistic way, more of a collectivistic way.
Yeah, I think in order to get better at design, community also plays a very, very good role, right? Because when you are into the community, you are also seeing other people, how they are improving, right? And it always talking about YDI, it's people like you and Sushant are have been always been good at their stuff. So yeah, it's really great to see YDI community growing. And so what's coming with YDI? What's up? What's next? What's a big plan?
Yeah, so we're currently exploring different kind of options that we could do, because we still are very new at it ourselves, in the sense that we don't know if, creating workshops, how many people would end up coming for a workshop if we
Yeah.
do one. We already do a few talks of sorts. So we invite different kind of designers, and they speak
Design
about
web,
their work.
right?
Design web, yeah, exactly, WIPs. So
Okay.
we try to kind of get people there. It's been successful till now. So there are always a few, some 90 to 100 people who come, who tune in whenever we do a Zoom call. So it's been quite nice that way. We still kind of exploring the boundaries of what people might do and what people might not do, in the sense that we recently took out some merchandise that we try to give around. Yeah, different kind of things. I mean,
you raise some
everything
funds
on a
also
platter.
for COVID relief, which is
Yeah, a lot of people have been sharing a lot of their COVID
That's
works. A
also
lot of
great.
people have been doing that. So yeah, a lot of things in the pipeline, but I'm still not sure what we'll end up doing, because end of the day, all of us are at the moment, working part-time in it, in the sense that all of us have jobs, and that we're doing this as, an extra gig, or, for just out of, passion and fun, or whatever you want to call it. So I think it'll improve with time for sure. The community is growing. I think it's very active. That's great. It's hard to get a bunch of people who are active on, a platform which is not Instagram. So it's fun that way. It's going well.
Yeah, man. And I think it's great. Yeah, you need some reality check like this when you are in a community like that, because Instagram can give you I don't know, fake lineups towards design, right? And what
Yeah,
is
dude,
all
that's
about,
that's so true. That's so true. I mean,
right?
it's
What
it's
you
a,
see
it's,
on
it's sad.
Instagram. Yeah.
You feel that everything's been done. That's one, which is very wrong. Things
Yeah.
have not been done. These are just concepts that cannot be done because of different things. So it's better to actually see what's being released and what's out there in, exhibitions and catalogs, than it is to definitely see concepts.
Great, man. Great. Um, so what are your plans, Vidur? What's up, man? What's your future plans like?
I wish
Where do you see yourself working or doing in next 5 years?
that's an interview question, and I wish I knew the answer. I don't know. The American, I don't know if the American immigration and the visa system is going to let me do what I want to do, but let's see what happens. I mean, right now I'm here. I definitely plan on working, in this kind of a realm for the next couple of years. Probably, hopefully within healthcare, and if not within healthcare, but still something similar to what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I think that's for sure. Overall, I think I would try to probably. I am definitely interested in doing something in India for sure, because there is a lot of scope for design, but that's obviously something that you need to really plan before you execute.
There's a lot of things, and I think having that right community. I think at this moment we need the right designers to lead the scene. If I'll be honest with you, they're still everyone's just like either independent or in their own zone or working for someone, right? But I think we really need good leadership or people to look forward to in order to improve in design, I think, and which you are already doing, I think. And then I think you should also spend some time on it, because it's I really would like to see good design scene in India. So thanks for this, man. Thanks for the time, yeah, Vidur. And thanks for the. It was very insightful and inspirational talk we had. Thanks for your time, Vidur.
For sure, man. Thank you for the
Yeah,
initiative. Great.
I see you soon, Vidur. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a good time. Chalo.
See you. Thank you.
Peace out.